Hello, YouTube land, and welcome to another edition of Putting It Back on the Table, a Renee James production. Family, it's time to fasten those seatbelts for a thrilling adventure of home cooking, featuring culinary instructor Derek J. Snyder. I'm your host, D. Schneid, and tonight the table presents...
Hunter's Chicken Part 1, the introduction.
Hello, YouTube land. Today we're going to take a little trip back to 16th century France and talk about a very traditional and rustic dish called Chasseur. In American, that means hunter. Said to have been created by Philippe de Mornay as a Mornay sauce, this man was a cardinal and the right hand to King Henry IV, which goes to show you don't have to be a chef in order to create a timeless classic. This stout, able-bodied brew was developed while on the hunt for game animals such as deer or rabbit, or small birds like pigeon or quail. As the hunters returned, they would forage the wild mushrooms and shallots they would see along the way, tossing them into a pot with their catch and the additions of some tomatoes and a little cognac, or maybe some sherry. They would stew this hodgepodge into a rather delightful goulash. The French army quickly adapted this recipe to use as their field rations, adding whatever they could find in the farms they would happen upon as they crossed the countryside. Today, this meal is still very popular as a chicken menu item, yet has been refined and modernized with the use of Espagnole or Demi-Glace to enrich the robust flavors of the sauce. The cooking methods have changed from stewing to braising and even pan-searing, as we're going to learn today. Of course, you can still prepare this the old-fashioned way by hunting your game and picking your produce along the way, just as they did 500 years ago. Just be sure to take a canine that is strong and healthy enough to find your prey and warn off any unwanted predators. Otherwise, you might as well take along those mangy dogs in the back alley. They'd be the first to run in a sign of danger, and they would take your kill with them. Enough of my jibber-jabbering, let's get started, shall we?
Hunter's Chicken Part 2, the ingredients. Chocolat pigeon, no, gigon. Chasseur gigon.
Alright, looks like we got a half a cup of some modern Demi. We got a shallot. We got some rosemary here, a little salt and some pepper. We got about 5 ounces of some cherry tomatoes, about 8 ounces of some mushrooms. We got a little white wine and some olive oil. And of course, we got ourselves 2 chicken breasts. All right.
Hunter's Chicken Part 3, the prep.
Okay, so let's take your mushrooms. Slice them really nice and thin, just like this, through the top and the stem. Next, cut your tomatoes in half long ways. I'm using San Marzano cherry tomatoes, which are twice as long as a grape, so I'm having to quarter mine. Take your shallot and slice off the ends. Now slice it long ways and use your knife to get under the skin so you can peel it. Now quarter it and then make thin slices just like you did with the mushrooms. Cut your sprig of rosemary into 3 sections. Now pull the leaves off just one section and chop them up nice and fine. Leave the other 2 pieces intact. Let's take care of that chicken. You'll notice these breasts still have the drumettes attached. These are called airline breasts because they still have their wings. Get it? If your chicken is wet, pat it dry. It's the water that spits up on you when you put it in the hot pan with oil. Now sprinkle some salt and some pepper on the skin and rub it in with a little bit of olive oil.
Hunter's Chicken Part 4, let's cook.
Alright, time to cook this bad boy. First, preheat your oven to 400 and spread some oil on a small cookie sheet. We'll start this in the pan on the stove to get the skin nice and crispy and use the drippings for the base of our sauce, but we're going to finish this chicken in the oven to ensure it's cooked all the way through and to keep it nice and juicy. Once your pan is hot, add some oil to it and turn it down to medium heat. Now place your chicken in skin side down and add those 2 sprigs of rosemary to the oil. What we're going to do here is baste the chicken with the oil that's now being infused with the rosemary. But first, let's season the side of the chicken with a little salt and a little pepper. Now that the chicken's been in there for a while and the skin has released some of its fat, it's time to baste. Tilt your pan to the side to let the oil pool up. Then use a spoon to toss it back up over the breast. This will take some practice, but it's actually kind of fun to do. It makes you feel like a real chef, really working that chicken to perfection. Keep doing this from time to time while the skin is getting crispy. You'll notice a slight green color on the chicken. That's from the herbs infusing with the oil. Once the skin is crispy, remove the rosemary in the chicken and place the chicken skin side up on the top of the rosemary on your cookie sheet and place it in the oven for about 7 to 10 minutes depending on how thick the breast is, or until it reaches an internal temperature of 165. Now it's time to work that sauce. Toss in the shallots and sweat them down a bit, and then add the mushrooms. Once the mushrooms start to release some of their water, add about a half cup of the white wine and reduce it, allowing those mushrooms to soak some of it in. Now toss in the tomatoes and cook them till they get nice and soft, like stewed tomatoes. Then add that beautiful modern Demi and the rosemary. Stir it around and let it simmer until the sauce thickens up. You can buy modern Demi-Glace or Espagnole in the store, or you can watch Food Wishes or Cooking in Russia YouTube channels for a version of how to make it yourself. Also, I'll be putting out a video on this pretty soon. The last resort would be going to the store and buying a 1-quart box of unsalted beef stock and reducing that down all the way to half a cup. So now that sauce is thickened up nicely, pour it off into a bowl and put it to the side. Also, your chicken should be done, so go ahead and pull it out and put it on a plate and let it rest for about 5 minutes before you serve it. As you can see in the picture, all I did to plate this was pour some of the sauce down the bottom of the bowl, and then I placed the chicken right on top, and that was it. Pretty easy, and man, is this one of my favorite dishes. I hope you enjoy it.
Hunter's Chicken Part 5, time to eat.
Well, family, do I see a hunting trip for Dad and little Timmy this weekend? Teach him to use the old bird gun and snag a quail, rabbit maybe. Perhaps go for something a little bigger, like some venison. Bring Mother and little Mindy along to help gather for the stew, or let them take a shot at some game. They just might surprise you. You could make a day of it and cook it all right there over the campfire with a barbecue. Bring along one of those portable stoves that have become so popular with the modern day cuisinaire and turn your campsite into a 4-star farm-to-table style restaurant. Show off your newly found skills for the neighboring parties or keep it private for you and the family unit. However and whatever you decide to do, just be sure to stay safe and use all the necessary precautions. It's not the firearm that causes accidents, it's the ignorance of the person using it. I'm Dee Schneid, and I would like to thank you for once again joining us today in another edition of Putting It Back on the Table. Goodbye, YouTube land.